Hey, have you ever wondered about the musician or the artist that you just saw in concert and say to yourself, hey, what's their backstory?
Okay, guys, show us what you got.
Hi, I'm Steve Yusko from the Long Island Sound, and this segment is called Profiles in Music. And I want to talk about one of my favorite artists that I found a few years ago. His name is Pete Mancini. Now, Pete is a great singer-songwriter in the vein of the Laurel, what I call the Laurel Canyon vibe, our own Laurel Canyon here on Long Island, from what I call the wellspring of talent. I saw Pete a number of years ago at the WUSB, which is the Stony Brook Station 45th anniversary, and he was one of the many artists that went on stage. And I said, hey, you know what, this guy's got really something special. And I was so blessed to have Pete on the podcast a couple of times. He actually co-hosted with me because I remembered that he was a fan of the Gin Blossoms. And I interviewed Robin Wilson, and Pete was really so gracious to join me since he was a fan of Gin Blossoms on the interview, and he did a fantastic job. So I've been following Pete's career, and as I dug into his music, I found out that he played on several of Paradiddle Records' tribute albums. One that was really amazing. Well, they're all amazing, but one was a tribute to Hank Williams. Pete is the very first track on that, and it features all of these Long Island artists, musicians, who do their own interpretations of whatever artist they're covering in the CD. Bill Herman's the guy behind the scenes on this. Really, kudos to you, Bill, on getting all these people together. And I want to talk about, hey, this is the season of Bob Dylan with the new Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, which is, I can't wait till it comes out on Christmas Day. But Bill Herman and Paradiddle Records put together, actually they're on their fourth Bob Dylan Uncovered album. And what I loved about this album was the spin that each artist brings their flavor and their spice and their woodshedding, their craft, their art to each of a Bob Dylan song. So check it out on Paradiddle Records. But let's talk more about Pete Mancini. You know, you get that inkling of, hey, this artist really has something there. They're a full-time musician, I found out. It's really a lot of hard work. I could never be a full-time musician. One, I haven't woodshedded the craft, but they amaze me on what they do. They're great storytellers, and they take the muse. What I love about Pete's music, it's so poignant for what's happening in the world today. Each song lives on and so true. But what really hooked it for me is there was a show that they put together based on Gene Clark. For those who don't know, Gene Clark was a tragic figure, the principal songwriter for the Byrds. And I went to the show at my father's place in Roslyn, and Pete Mancini was joined with Rich Lanahan, another great artist, and they did the songs of Gene Clark. And what was so amazing is that I believe that Pete read the biography of Gene Clark, and he was inspired to write a song called Silent Troubadour. I challenge you, go look it up on Spot. Stop listening to me now, but go and listen to that Silent Troubadour song. It was so cool, and it really pulled together Gene Clark's music and made it alive for me, just as they made Hank Williams come back alive. I didn't realize how massive Hank Williams' catalog of music was until I went and heard Pete Mancini and various artists on the Paradiddle Records Hank Williams tribute album that's on Spotify as well. And then I believe Pete and Rich just did a show at the Stony Brook Museum where they did the Byrds as well, expanded on their music. So really great stuff. Another quick message or story about Pete Mancini. So Pete has been traveling the United States touring with Jimmy Webb. For those who don't know, Jimmy Webb, great songwriter originally from Oklahoma, now resides on Long Island. Pete opened up originally for Jimmy's shows where he travels around, and then became the guitarist on stage joining Jimmy Webb. What a fantastic story. It's so nice to see an artist, I assume being mentored by Jimmy. And it's amazing what Pete is able to bring to the table for us. So I'm so encouraged by that. So please look up Pete Mancini on everywhere on the web. Go see him in person. Tell him you heard of him through Steve at the Long Island Sound podcast. Now, a little pitch about the podcast. Long Island Sound podcast. We're coming up on our 3rd year. Please subscribe. We're an audio podcast everywhere and a video podcast on Spotify as well as YouTube, wherever you're seeing this. Hey, we'd love to hear your comments about the artists that we present in profile and the artists you believe should be a guest on the Long Island Sound podcast. I tell you, I am driven by my curiosity for those who've woodshedded their craft, as well as the ability to take the muse when it strikes them and develop it into a song and articulate the emotions that we feel that I don't articulate very well in music. So, as I say, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. All right, be well, everyone.